Quick announcement to say that my workshop is now sold out. That's this Saturday, July 6th, Heels Overhead at the Elbow Room. You can join the waitlist, which means that it's free to join the waitlist. If people drop out, you get emailed to say that you're now in the workshop, and then you can choose to pay and join the workshop then. So everything else in this podcast is true. But the bit about my workshop having availability is false, because I recorded this on Monday. It's now Thursday, and it's sold out. So, how are you doing? This is Kevin. This is the Yoga Life podcast. If you didn't know, if you do know, thanks for coming back and listening, wherever you are, whatever you may be doing. This podcast is sponsored by Apparel and Small Changes. Apparel are a men's clothing company that want to encourage more fellas to do yoga. Like me, maybe like you, maybe like someone you love. All their gear is derived from eco-friendly sources. It's Blue Sign certified, if you didn't know, because that's the first time I've said that, to minimise the environmental impact throughout their production process. So it's all sustainable, recycled fabrics, and their gear looks good too, which is important, because if you want to move, and you want to move on and off the mat, be comfortable, reduce your carbon footprint, and look good while doing it, check out If you go to their website, om.com/#TYLP, and you put in the promo code Kevin when you get to checkout, you get 15% off. That's on all gear apart from clearance items. So it's ohmme.com/#TYLP, as in the Yoga Life podcast. Pick out your clubber, put in your promo code, my name, which is Kevin, and that's it. You get 15% off, which is cushy. Right, next we have Small Changes. What are they? What does that mean? Organic, eco-friendly, plant-based whole foods and products, refills and juice bar. All of that with a zero waste ethos. Based here in Dublin, Ireland, Drumcondra D9. That's on the north side. They opened another place closer to my home. If you didn't know that already, I'm like telling everyone. But they don't do an online offering, so you've got to go in there and actually see human beings. Yeah, and maybe even have a face-to-face conversation. Yikes. And pick out your fruit, your veg, your household items. I get my refills and my laundry detergent from there. Get everything from there, basically. Apart from my almond butter, or almond butter. I get that elsewhere until Small Changes stock it. So fingers crossed they do soon. Anyway, this episode is with Jenny Keane. You may or may have not heard the first one I did with her, which was episode 5. If you did, entitled Yoni Massage, Womb, Yoga and Moon Cycles. I haven't decided what I want to title this one yet. I've got to do that now in a moment. But Jen is back. Jenny's back with a bang, thank God, because there's no one like her in Dublin, in the world, obviously, but she's phenomenal. I spent most of the weekend with her at the teacher training and yoga hub, and she did a closing ceremony, and I nearly cried. Nearly. What is it with this eye contact crying thing? But she's just phenomenal, and great personality, and she's got real spirit about her. So I hope you enjoy this podcast, and if you do, please leave a review on iTunes or share it with your friends on Instagram. For me, a little bit of housekeeping before I put Jenny on with you guys, and that is my handstand workshop. There are 3 spaces left. This is this Saturday, that's July 6th, in the Elbow Room. And the other thing I have on this month is July 27th, which is also a Saturday. That is at 3 p.m. in Yoga Hub, Castle Knock, which is a yoga teacher training open day. If you're thinking about becoming a yoga teacher, you've got a few questions, and you would like to start in September. It's a 10-month course. Come along Saturday 27th and ask your questions. It's free, just to meet maybe fellow trainees that you might be on the course with, and see what you think. So that's it. Let's without further ado, here's Jenny. You're psyched up. You want to do an
Huh?
Do you want to do
Yeah, we do.
Just do one, yeah?
Yeah.
Ready? Yeah. Nice. Now get that thing right up to your face.
To
yeah,
okay.
Put it towards you. How's it going, Jen?
Oh, it's going so good.
Your tea's there, by the way.
Thank you.
We were talking about, well, since you came in, we talked about you got called to come back home. Not literally, but...
Ring, ring.
But,
Jenny, this is Ireland speaking.
Where have you been exactly?
Yeah, so this time I started off my travels in India. Mm-hmm. And then I was there for about just over 3 months. Mm-hmm. And then I went back to Thailand for 5 months. And then I spent the last 3 weeks in Bali.
In whereabouts in Bali?
So I was actually traveling there with my girlfriends. So I kind of took that time just for myself to decompress after, everything. And so we were everywhere. We kind of went to Ubud. We went to this beautiful place called Les Waterfalls, and we stayed there for a couple of nights as well. So you're staying in the jungle. There's this incredible waterfall there. Oh my God. So we just stayed there. We did our practices, meditations, meditated by the waterfall for hours. It's very peaceful and soothing there, And yeah, then we traveled around a little bit more, went back to Ubud.
What is it? Les as in LES?
LES, yeah.
And where is it in Bali in relation to Ubud?
North.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm really bad at directions.
Yeah, same
I kind of these girls have been in Bali for, one of them in particular, she's been in Bali for years and years, and she was just we're going here, and I just followed,
Yeah, I know. I mean, sometimes if you're in a group when you're traveling and one person will be the leader,
yes,
and just let them be the leader.
Oh, this is it.
It's way easier than trying to have two people figure things out. But when I was in Bali a few weeks ago, it was me and my girlfriend, so I would just kind of became the leader, as it were. Yeah. And it works out well. I mean, I think when you're in a group of, how many people are in your group? Your girlfriends?
There's just 3 of us.
That's fine. Yeah. But anything more than that, and it can get a bit dicey. You end up getting split up, and you have to wait around for people and stuff. But so go a bit more into what you mentioned about. I asked you when you came in here, how long are you home for?
Yeah.
And you said, forever, in bunny ears. So what was it that why did you decide to come back?
But even last year, I was going away again. I really have started to feel this need in me to kind of put some roots down and settle a little bit. As beautiful and amazing as traveling is, it's also very difficult in the fact that, and even the fact that when I travel, I tend to stay places for long periods of time. Yeah. So I kind of make a little home there. But I always find the process of leaving somewhere and getting to somewhere, that part in between, a little bit, I feel my body resisting it, it's just oh, I don't want to leave. I'm kind of happy here. I even had that leaving Thailand and Bali and coming back here in the beginning, and then once I'm here, I'm fine. So yeah, and I just have this desire to, really set up some roots and kind of step or bring into Dublin and Ireland, what I believe my dharma is, which is this passion that I have, to teach women about yoga, about pleasure, all of this stuff. This is my passion, when I talk about it, I feel my heart just starting to open and expand, and this is what I feel is my purpose in the world, and in my life, and so I really have this desire to come back home and to, offer this stuff, the stuff that I've been practicing and finding.
I think as well, Jen, is that when you're traveling and you, especially if you go to maybe an expat community or just places with smaller populations than a city like Dublin, people speak to each other more. It's far easier to create a community, but the downside is if you're in the back of your mind, that's not forever. That you're it's only a matter of time before you're going to leave. It's kind of hard to build long-term relationships. Whereas now that you're in Ireland, you're obviously you're still go away on holidays and stuff. But to know that when you meet people, you could know them for the rest of your life. It's a very good likely chance. And these women that you're doing these sessions with, you can build longer term relationships, I think, than you could if maybe you were if you were abroad, because you're going to come home again.
Yeah, in one way I agree with you, and in another way I have to completely disagree with you.
What? It's outrageous.
Yeah, because these past couple of years, I really feel like I have created bonds with people who have become a family to me. I think we're all born into, a family, and we have that connection because it's connected by, blood and DNA and by the process of just growing up. And then I think as we go along and live our life, we meet people, friends that become our spiritual family, if you want to say that, because we're in the spiritual world, but family, where like people become our women become our sisters and men become our brothers, and even more than this, And I really feel like I have a beautiful family that is all over the world, actually. And and I'm very, I'm so grateful for meeting all of those people and what traveling has allowed me to experience in terms of opening my world up to other people's cultures, other people's ways of living, and learning how to communicate differently, because we all communicate differently, Like Irish people have a certain way to communicate, German people a certain way and it's so beautiful to interact with all of these different personalities and cultures, because you become a broader, fuller person because of it,
Yeah, true. I think traveling is essential for development and for learning about yourself, and you said, and you begin to realize as well that people are more alike than they are different. When I went, because I lived in Korea for a couple of years, and our basic human base level, we all had the same fears, and kind of needs, as it were. You mentioned about like living as living so generic, but living alone, and how it's saying that you like the fact that you've come home now and you have your own space. Is this something? Why do you like? Because I lived alone for a long time as well, and it has pros and cons. How do you find it?
I personally love it, and for me it's necessary and like super essential that I have my own space that I can just come back into, like yourself when you're teaching and you're like running around from studio to studio, how much energy it moves out. And for me, the practice, my practice, it can sometimes be quite long, a couple of hours, and I need the space, to have. I need the space. I need the space to speak into the mic.
Sorry.
Hello.
Yeah,
but I need the space, to come back into connection with myself, because for me, this is how I come back home, to myself. And yourself, like for me in the past when I've been in Dublin, I've, because of the issues with rent and all that kind of stuff, I've had to live with like 5 other people, and I love this because I'm very social and I love to talk to people. But at the same time, I recognize how necessary it is for me to be just, to have my own sanctuary, to have my own space to come back into, to come back home to reconnect with myself. And this is so important for me. So I really like that.
Yeah, I think we spend a lot of our time around people, and that is actually it is important strength to have, that you're good amongst people. You can be a good host. I think this is a key skill that a lot of yoga teachers need to develop, is being a good host, knowing how to make people feel welcome and always being open and be able to listen. But then the opposite of that is when you get home, it's nice to not have to speak to anyone. I think if you live with someone that you know very well, say it's your partner or best friend, they know if you don't want to talk, if you just want to come in and say nothing. But when you live with strangers, it can be, you have the obligation to have that small talk, and that's not, you need time to do nothing, don't you? To reflect, to read, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
because you spend so much time amongst people.
And this is the thing, like what you're saying about being a good teacher is like to be a good host, be able to welcome people, be able to be a good listener, you know, but you need to do that to yourself as well, you know, like to be able to welcome yourself, to take time to create space that you can actually listen to what's going on in you too, you know. And this is how you keep that connection, you know, and this is why it's so important as teachers to maintain your practice, whatever that is, you know.
From when you were, and that is a really good point. I think, you know, like I had a really good quote saying, the most important conversations you have are the ones with yourself, you know, and what you tell yourself in your head is often what you'll share with other people, you know.
This is it. Like to be able to listen is, you know, and to be able to listen well is a skill that you have to practice. We don't learn this, you know, and actually how we live in society, you know, doesn't really encourage us to learn this, you know. Like you think about now, we're filled, like our world is filled with so many distractions. Like you can go home to your parents and be on your phone or watching TV the whole time, you know, and not actually listen to what they're saying, you know, and not actually have that connection. So to have the practice of listening is super important, because listening is how we learn to meet the world, with our heart open, with our mind open, without prejudice, without preconceived ideas of what should be happening and how it should be happening. And this is how you walk into the world continually, you know, like with the sharing your heart, you know, and this brightness and this,
But I think listening though is massively misunderstood, because when you're in a conversation and someone says something to you and they're trying to share how they feel, often I find what I do is I will give them a story of equal, it's just a similar story, to show them that I understand that, and instead that almost seems like I'm trying to one up them, you know. and I've realized this is something I need to address, that or equally, I'm trying to address this, but it's coming across, I think, a little bit awkward, because so what I've been doing now consciously is when I go in to teach in the studios, I'll meet someone and they'll say, "Oh, how are you? How was your weekend?" And they'll tell me how their weekend was, and I'll just say, "Oh, good." And then I'll just be quiet. I won't tell them about my weekend unless they actually ask. And it ends up, you realize that we get caught in these patterns of how we speak to each other. And I think I may be coming across sometimes as a bit distant, a bit strange, because I'm listening to what they're saying, and then I'm going, "Oh, that's very nice." But often we kind of maintain, it's like superficial chit chat. You know, it's about the weather, and you can't go too deep. So I'm trying to be a better listener, but I think it's coming across like I'm emotionally distant. Because before I would be an oversharer. I just start talking, and I was rubbish at small talk. If someone talking about the weather, I'd kind of go a bit deep, and people think, "Oh, this is a bit. I just wanted a small talk," you know. But it's a difficult skill to master. I'm actually thinking of doing. I met Lico Luce last weekend. He's a handsome man, isn't he? Just
I saw him walk in the studio once, and I was like, "Who's that?"
I mean, I'm a straight guy, but you can appreciate a good-looking human being. He's a stud. But anyway, so shout out to Nico. What was my point? I got distracted by Nico's beauty. My point was that I've completely forgot my point.
You said, I think you were talking about listening, and you were thinking about going to do something, and then Nico.
Oh yeah, so I met Nico, and he's a real listener. You know, you'll say something to him, and he'll nod at you and keep eye contact and wait for you to keep going. And he was telling me about
Nonviolent communication.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you tell me about this? You didn't? No.
No, I haven't spoken to you about this. No.
What is this?
Nonviolent communication is...
Have you done it before?
Yeah. So it's very big, actually, in the neo-tantric community. And it's just a practice of, first of all, learning to listen and learning how to speak. Yeah. So really, let me see how I could explain this. Really, The idea is to call yourself into presence. So what you're feeling from Nico, is the idea that he's here. He's here with you completely. There is nowhere else that he is, And this is what happens. This is what I talk about, like all of these distractions. These distractions cause our senses to move outwards and away from us, And we're bombarded with this stuff, Our senses are bombarded without us even knowing, especially living in a city, And when our senses are bombarded, we become not just distracted, but feeling dejected, leads to feelings of anxiety, even depression, and an overstimulation that causes a heaviness, The act of calling yourself into presence becomes a shield to your senses, where this inner goodness can thrive, and you can actually experience your own inner sense of sheer joy, sheer peace. And from this space, this presence, you allow yourself to hold a space for somebody that's right in front of you, So to listen without this need to try to fix them or change them, but instead to let them express everything that they're feeling, and in this space, to be a witness to what they're feeling. And it's very beautiful. There's many different practices and ways of doing it. Sometimes you can do it by, someone like speaks to you and they're saying, I'm feeling this, and this. And you say, thank you for expressing how you're feeling. I hear that you're feeling this, and this. And even just the fact of being witnessed in that allows the emotion that you're having, to space to move, and in that space to move, space to transform, because your body can relax when you are held in the presence of somebody and only them, your body relaxes, the tension that you're holding relaxes because ultimately you feel safe,
he because he was talking about, well, I was asking him about teacher training, because I'm doing leading the teacher training with Catherine in September. Beautiful. And I'm thinking, how can I be a better communicator? I'm a good talker, but that doesn't mean I'm a good communicator. And I find, that's a seagull, I find that communicating with us, I find that
listen, Kev, listen.
I hear what
let's hold space for the seagull.
So I'm conscious that people in a teacher training environment are very sensitive, and it's quite an intense environment, and I don't want to dominate the conversation always. I want to give people a chance to be heard. And Nico mentioned about nonviolent communication, and I think the example he gave was if someone, when you're taking feedback, say someone tried a posture and then they're giving their feedback, instead of saying to them, did you like it, yes or no, or what do you think, he'd ask them about how they felt about it, why they feel that way. And it was basically a lot more kind of considerate in terms of how you get feedback from people. And I think that way of communicating, it doesn't feel natural to me. It feels like something I want to develop, because I have been in rooms where people have felt, I'll always put my hand up and speak, never had a problem with that, but I'm conscious of the people that never put their hand up, the people that have invested their time in doing a teacher training, and maybe they feel like they're never heard because they don't know how, they haven't been encouraged to communicate in a way that feels comfortable for them. And this whole topic, this whole area, I think is fascinating, isn't it? Because communicating is it's important.
Communicating is a relationship.
Yes, exactly.
Between you and the people that you're communicating with, and you can have this communication as well between you and the world too, and this is the beautiful thing about the practice of listening, because you can then start to communicate with your environment, and ultimately this is the purpose of yoga, so to have this dissolution, so we oftentimes we think like the purpose of yoga, and especially in this day and age, and especially in the city, it's like about achievement, it's about goal orientation, like I'm going to achieve this pose, and even on a spiritual level, I'm going to achieve samadhi, it's like this thing, there's a search and a seeking for something. But actually the process of yoga, and this is what I've been discovering over the years, like, because I've been evolving through the practice too, you know. And so like the purpose of this is actually a dissolution of yourself. It's like, you know, how do you go about the process of unmaking yourself? Yeah, it's the process of allowing yourself to shed, you know, all of these extra layers, and continually shed until you can get into these spaces where you completely dissolve. And then you start to recognize that there's this exchange taking place all of the time, yeah, between the outer world and the inner world. And this is Tantra, you know, this is the process of, you know, coming into that connection, yeah, with yourself, where you not only experience this movement towards your soul, yeah, where it's almost like the contraction, yeah. So you feel like you're moving back into this space where you feel home, yeah, where you know yourself, what's going on inside your world, your emotions, your mental activity, how the breath moves inside of you, and then to expand and to allow yourself to open to take. So it's a process, yeah, you know, of taking what is outside in, so that you can give what is inside out. And, you know, the more you get into this, the more you start to, you know, expand your consciousness, you know. And this, you know, is like the purpose of it. So it's like, how do you shed as much as possible so that you can do this, you know. And there's so many ways to do it, you know, which is so beautiful.
But I think that's why having an introspective practice like yoga is so important, because you are going back to what we mentioned earlier about spending time alone on your own to go through, even if it's just the superficial physical postures, and seeing how your thought patterns. How do you think about yourself? How do you treat yourself? How do you talk to yourself? Before, for example, for me, before I used to think, I'm not manly enough. I need to have bigger muscles. You know, you spend your life, especially you grew up in the 80s, being conditioned by He-Man. You know, and He-Man's like, he's a legend, obviously, like in terms of for little boys. But if you look at him, or then in the 90s, it was like Arnold Schwarzenegger. But I'm going down a bit of a rabbit hole here. But essentially, just talking about muscular men. This is getting weird.
And Nico Luce. What's happening?
I know. I was like, right. Anyway. So I remember when I used to move my body, it'd be like, how can I look different? I want to have bigger muscles because I want to feel more like a man. And I even contemplated taking steroids. Oh yeah. Well, this is like my mid-20s.
Wow. When
I first started trying to get fit. And so then I had a real complex about my masculinity. So when I was within relationships, I would try to be overtly male, and it wasn't really me. And now through practicing yoga, I don't have a physical aesthetic that I'm trying to achieve. It just so happens that because I like eating well and I move a lot, I look fairly fit, which is it's a byproduct of it. So that's great. I mean, we have a bit of it, which is always vain. But what I tell myself now is, what I learn about myself is how I speak to myself. Can I show myself compassion when I'm practicing? And can I learn anything? This is what's really fascinating me now, because I'm nearly 38, and I've only recently learned how to handstand because I've practiced it. And although it's not like an achievement, that's not the goal, but the fact that you actually can learn anything if you just practice it enough, and you learn how to be kind to yourself, treat yourself like you treat your student. You know, so that introspective practice, it doesn't have to be through movement. I think rewires your brain and makes you more compassionate for other people. Because I am like completely different now to what I used to be like. I'm sure you are too. Yeah. And we almost like we live different lives, don't we? We evolve. Yeah, so that's that.
Yeah, this is the purpose of life, you know, to change, to grow, you know, it's like all part of this, you know. And yeah, like what you're describing, it's, you know, it's to do the things in your life like that makes you feel alive, you know. And these moments are the moments that you expand, you know, and that can be anything, you know. It's like, and it doesn't have to be yoga. For a lot of people, it's yoga. Like, I mean, in our world, we're talking about yoga, meditation, all this kind of stuff. It's to expand, you know, but you can can do this through dance. And it's to allow yourself to dance and to feel the pleasure, you know, behind dancing, where pleasure is a sensation, the ability to be fully sensory, you know, and where you're not dancing anymore, you become the dance, you know. When you're a singer, you're not singing a song anymore. It's like you sing, you become the song, you know. When you're reading a poem, you become the poem. When you're practicing yoga, you become yoga, you know. Whatever this is for you, you feel it in wide open spaces, you know. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps talking about this, you know.
Are.
Yeah, but it's like this feeling of aliveness, you know, where suddenly there's this you're not confined by the boundaries of your own body anymore. You expand and open into all of that. You know, you see it like when you go to a place, you know, and you look over like the ocean or something like this, and you just feel this expansiveness, and suddenly your whole body explodes into that space, you know. It's like these are the moments, and those are the moments that you feel alive, you know. And this is, you know, what life is about, but to feel alive.
But as you said, you know, the external internal can't be separated really. So what you're taking in, it's almost like if you're taking in good food, good nutrition, then you where am I going with this? Then you're going to be really regular on the toilet. No. Well, you will have, you know, good digestion. But no, what I mean is information, what you take in, referring back to Nico and being present. Like, he is not prolific on Instagram at all. Okay, he's very and this is not a thing about Instagram, by the way. That's it's a separate topic. But what are you putting into your mind? Do you read the Sun newspaper every day? Do you listen to Sky News, which is just bad news on repeat? Because what you're taking into your mind, that nutrition, is what you're going to put out into the world. The same way the people you associate with, and you know, and the conversations that you choose to have, and even little things like, I don't know if this is NLP, but framing things in the positive. Like, I asked Nico a question, and I asked it in a negative way. I said, what would you not do that you did before? And he turned it into a positive, which just simply using that language changes how you just how you are, you know. And I think this is should be a constant. People should be made more aware of this. And I think yoga helps that.
This is the thing. And you know, you can do anything in life, and it's like, I mean, for me, and I have to say, this is something that the practice of Tantra has really allowed me to consider, you know, so that you can like move through the world. And it's like, you know, how do you derive pleasure from the world? And, you know, where pleasure isn't just about sex, okay? This is like how you derive pleasure. There you go
with the sex thing again.
There we go, sex.
Hey, whoa.
Sex that.
No, so gone. No, gone.
But this is how, like, it's not just about sex, you know, this is how you derive pleasure from all aspects of your life, you know? Like, where, you know, you can decide that every breath that you take can be a pleasurable breath, you know, like that right now, as you're listening to this, you start to become aware of your breath, and you start to feel as you inhale and as you exhale, how the breath moves in deeply to your body. It's so intimate, how it caresses the inside of your body. Nothing else can do that, you know, to feel the breath just like really caressing the back of the heart, this gentle stroking, you know, this becomes pleasurable, you know, how you take pleasure in your food, you know, how you take pleasure like from sitting in the company of another, you know, and this is what, going back to this, the idea of being fully present, fully sensory.
It's
space for that.
That's such an important point. I mean, the breath is something that's said over and over again. I think to some people it's a bit of an abstract concept, but the only time we teach people, Max Strom said it brilliantly, to breathe is when someone's giving birth. That's which is crazy, but and obviously giving birth is I've never done it, and I imagine I never will, but you never know, science though.
You're like Art is like always wanting to be, he's like, I'd love to be pregnant just to give birth. I'm just like,
but you know, which is a massive physical undertaking and an incredibly impressive feat to birth someone, but that's when we teach people how to breathe. So it just shows you how powerful breathing can be. And if I like to nap in the afternoon, but often if I don't get a nap, I do my 3 rounds of Wim Hof, which I teach in class, almost every class now.
Beautiful.
And I feel, Jen, like nothing can faze me. If I've done that breathing, nothing. I'm just like, I'm so centered if I do my breathing. But everything, not just the breathing, as in, it's almost like savoring things, isn't it? Like savoring a meal when you eat it. Before, I actually got this idea from you when we sat down for breakfast in Two Boys Brew. Shout out to them. But you did a little prayer before you started, and I said, what are you doing? And you said, you're being grateful. And now I do that every time. I take a moment to be grateful for my food. And those little moments, you recondition, you condition yourself to be present, to be more grateful. And then you go out in the world and you can have better relationships. And life is about relationships.
Yes, and because this whole thing, being grateful, this practice of gratitude, is what do I want to say? I was going to say something about gratitude. Yeah, this practice of gratitude is this idea of being fully aware, like fully present and completely in attention to all of the ways that life has to mesh together, mold together, move together in order for you just to take one more breath. Just think about that for a second. All of the things that happen in life just for us to be able to breathe. Ooh, I get goosebumps again. Yeah. But when you're in those moments and you're suddenly aware of that, this is suddenly when everything, this is what I'm saying, every breath becomes a pleasure, to take, every breath becomes a gift, and this part makes, if you're living every moment like this, every breath, every moment, everything is a gift, that this is when you're suddenly starting to become super alive, and this is the dissolution, between your body and the rest of the world. And suddenly it's like, love, I'm alive, baby. Yeah.
and when you're breathing, I mean, you need the external world to breathe. The trees, it's all you're part of that world. You can't breathe on your own. But what I really like about the breathing as well is that you can't control things that happen in your life. There are variables. It could be like someone cuts you up in traffic, or someone says something to you that you don't like. But what you could always have control of is how you breathe and how you choose to react to that. And that is critical, because when I was growing up, I grew up in quite a lively household, let's say, and it would be a case of sometimes I'd find myself wanting to get the last word in and kind of being a bit of a smart ass. And there's so much power in taking a breath, taking a moment and just reassessing. Yeah. Give someone the benefit of the doubt. And, I've done some things before that I'm like embarrassed and ashamed to say that I've done. I mean, like I'll say one of them. A few years ago, this is only when I first started practicing yoga. I wasn't really into it properly, but, and I remember I got into a traffic, some guy cut me up. This is just in Fisborough. And I got out of the car and offered him out, which basically offered him to fight. Like in the middle of pouring rain.
Fisticuffs, Kev.
Yeah, pouring rain, middle of the day. And then I was there, like we were standing in front of each other. No, sorry, that's a lie. He didn't get out of the car. That was it. So he didn't get out of the car. So I'm standing there in the street, like thinking, I am such an idiot. I am such a fool. Look, imagine if someone's seen me. If I could see myself, I'd think you're weak. You're weak. You've caved in. What are you trying to prove? And now I would never do that. Do you believe me?
I don't know. I'm going to test you now. See if you get the fisticuffs out of me.
no. But in what has helped is practicing jiu-jitsu. I mean, like actual.
Beautiful. Because
I think actually I want to speak to you about this, Jen. Aggression. Okay, so I read an interesting article about aggression and how men show aggression through physicality and women can show aggression often through social alienation. They'll like Do you, when you're teaching in your, what's the best way to describe it, kind of women studies? Is that fair?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah,
just
let's
to
call it
encompass
that.
it all, because you do quite a lot. Do you talk about that side of womanhood or femininity, the aggression, and how to address that? For example, in the workplace, where women are often encouraged to, or people encouraged to be more masculine, to dominate, to never cry. That shows kind of weakness. How do you find this comes up?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting what you say there about aggression and how men and women show it differently, right? So one of the fundamental fears for men is shame and guilt. Yeah, so these are the things that they go into. And then, if you think about warriors, yeah, so you're not strong enough, you're not brave enough, you're not, willing to fight. So there's this shame and this guilt. And this is what alienates men from the group of men, yeah. They say that women, their greatest fear is abandonment. Yeah. So what you're talking about, how so the women experience it more as being
social alienation.
Yeah. This is ultimately our biggest fear,
Yeah.
And what do these things come like? Aggression comes from fear.
Yeah, definitely.
And so all of these things are born, and this is an energy that kind of seeks to suck on your fears and then make them alive and real, so that then you become, and then we respond emotionally, So yeah, all of this work, I mean, there, when it comes to exploring this work with women, this is only one small aspect of it. And really, like, what these groups and working with women do, the fundamental thing is, first of all, to call in, it's a sisterhood, yeah? It's a circle. So you create a circle of community, yeah? A circle where there's no abandonment, yeah? You're called in to a space of feeling in connection with other women, And one of the biggest things is to feel for women is that everything is normal, just to be told, like, oh, I'm normal, like my sexuality is normal. If you're experiencing pain, it's normal. If you're experiencing pleasure, it's normal. If you experience nothing, it's normal. Yeah. We all have, this is all part of our humanness. Yeah. We all experience all of this all at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's coming back, and just to be told you're normal, is such a beautiful thing of freedom. It gives you freedom.
Yeah. I think I think that is so important, that you should be okay with experiencing a spectrum of emotions. When you practice yoga, you're not always going to feel happy. You're not always going to feel calm. Sometimes you might feel excited, frustrated, angry. And that's, but to recognize it without reacting, and maybe to have that introspective practice of asking yourself, why do you feel that way?
And this is it as well, Kat.
I got it.
And also, this is the practice of yoga. Yeah, like what I'm saying, it's a practice of dissolution. It's a practice of purification. Yeah. So it's to constantly call up, everything that's happening in your body, calling up the things that are in your mind, calling up the emotions that are in your heart, whether it's, pleasure, whether it's anger, whether it's frustration, to continually call these up, to be faced with it so you can clear it. Yeah. And this is the process, of the practice, that you're constantly, it's like, they describe it as an onion, peeling away the layers. You're constantly starting to come closer to understanding your makeup, to understanding how you react, what your behaviors are, because ultimately this is how you understand yourself. And it's a practice that allows you to self-author. So you're meeting the parts of you, like your virtues. You're meeting the parts of you that are, like, yes, this is my passion, this is what I'm good at, these are the things, these are my gifts, and then you're meeting your, I want to say faults, but I'm going to do the bunny ears. And it's this idea of, like, how do you capitalize on your passions, on your virtues, and how do you transform your faults. I think fault is a bad word here.
What's a better word?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of something else.
Shortcomings?
Maybe, I don't know. But it means that you're lacking, and it's not really a thing about lacking. It's to recognize that you're already whole.
Areas for development.
There we go. Huh?
Areas for development.
Areas for development.
That's what I used to say.
There you go.
That's what you say when I used to work in the corporate world. They'd be like, they used to use that. They'd be like, Kevin, these are your strengths, which would be like one. These are your areas for development. Now, lock the door. We're going to be here for a while. So it's basically a way of saying like, this is what you need to do about.
And this is what we mean by self-authoring, because you're essentially writing your story. So you have to know, like, who do you want to be in this world, and what do you want that to look like, you know? And are you taking the steps that move you closer to that? If you want to be a person that's fully alive, fully present, fully sensual, can you live like that in every single moment, you know? Yeah, that's
but it's not, well, that's why it's a practice, isn't it? Because it's not easy to do.
No,
I mean, it's so easy to get caught up in distractions, and to even be like, I mean, I find it myself that I am, it's a conversation I can't really avoid, Jen, but it's my phone, it's something that, like, I think do you know that now I've heard actually they have rehab centers in the States now. Do you know Johan Hari?
no.
Oh God, he's phenomenal. It might be Johan Hari, but he's an English guy. He wrote a book called Lost Connections, and he talks about this internet rehab center they have in the States, where people are sent if they're addicted to their phone, essentially. And he said that, like, he got out of the car to go there, and the first thing he did was check his phone. You know, there's no Wi-Fi signal, obviously there's no signal at all out there. But this is and referring to what I mentioned earlier about the social alienation, or tying it all together, is that I think this is what young women need to be aware of. It is the thing that with your phone you can, not just in school or in the workplace are you susceptible to being alienated if that happens, but it never leaves you. It's always in your pocket, you know, being objectified and alienated. And I think that, like, it's really important for women to have a sisterhood, because I go to jiu-jitsu, if I'm on it, it's for the brotherhood. I enjoy the physicality of it, definitely, but I like the lads.
Yeah.
You know, I really like that. I miss that a lot.
Because the connection.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the thing, like what you're saying with the phone, I mean, it's relevant for men too. You know, like this, like it's, you know, like, okay, here's the one thing, Kev, right? Most people at nighttime, they're going to bed, checking their phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you are stroking your phone more than you are stroking yourself or your partner next to you, I mean, there's something wrong. It's like when you think about it like this.
Well, that's the little snippet, the quote I'll be using for the promotion. Thank you for that.
But really, you know, like, think about it, like we're sleeping with people who are next to us that we love, you know, and we're both like checking our phone, you know. It's like, put the phone away and touch each other for a moment, you know, and like take pleasure from it. If you're by yourself, just put the phone away, touch yourself, ask your body how it felt today, you know, take a little bit of pleasure in yourself, like, and go asleep in that instead of asleep in the, ooh, what did Susan do today? You know, what are the, you know, it's crazy, you know, like to fill your body, like, and this is what I mean, you know, it's like to take the measures and to make it a practice, you know, because this day we have to do that, unfortunately, you know, like to create a discipline where discipline isn't something that's like, oh, you have to do this and blah, blah, blah. Discipline becomes a way. Good. Yeah. Discipline is something that is a key to your enjoyment. Yeah. To have a discipline of your practice, like that you're enjoying your practice, you know, it becomes a way to become alive in that even more, you know.
Jen, I love this. 1 second, I'm going to check the time.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We've got another 15 minutes.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, nice one. No, I love this because brilliant what you said there. Discipline, people think that's a bad thing, and like a punishment almost, because they think about when they're in school and the teacher would discipline them, whatever. But self-discipline is a choice. It's a choice that you got. And every time you got that decision, do I eat this piece of crap or do I eat something good? Do I get up and exercise or do I not get up and exercise? And it's important that you treat yourself like your own best friend. what would I do if I really care for this person? How would I talk to them? Like we said earlier about your internal narrative. How would I look after them?
How would I touch them?
How would I? Yeah, yeah, and that is so important, because we prioritize things outside of ourselves so much, and you can only look after people you love if you look after yourself first, and that is key. I think that I had this conversation with someone I really love recently, and I said that, I love myself. I actually do. I love myself, not in that way, and I want them to love themselves too, and some people they don't feel like they're good enough, and I think that is, sorry to the nation of Ireland, mum and dad are Irish, so just saying, but the Irish culture is a little bit self-deprecating, and whereas in the American culture it's all about, yes we can, well, obviously with Trump now it's different, but what you said there, I was going to call you Rach, Jen, about self-discipline is so important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you address that in your workshops and your women's stuff?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm so yeah, basically, and even now, so I haven't rolled it out yet, but I have a practice, and this is like basically what I want. This is why I'm home in Ireland as well, because I want to do. So this is, and also this is why I've been quiet. I've been quiet on the internet the last couple of months, and because again, it was like really there is something very much inside of me that was like, like time to go in, and there is like I was feeling this like a birthing process happening, and really it's this like developmental program where you're moving women through a journey. So obviously I'll be doing workshops, and they're like little tasters almost, of like opening women to sexuality in different ways, to pleasure in different ways, not just around sex, but also around other things. But in the developmental program that I'll be starting soon, there's different levels, and one of the levels is completely around discipline. And again, like this self-discipline, it's a practice of self-love. To give yourself that time in your day that is just for you, even if so we're talking about pleasure right now, but even if you think about like the practice of learning how to pleasure yourself, even if it's sexually, like women, we don't make time for masturbation, we don't. Generally, it's like the last thing on our list, when, especially if we have children in the mix and we have a partner and we have a job to look after, and it's something that we just don't ever think about doing. And generally this practice of masturbation is more because orgasm, there's many different types of orgasms, but one of the main ones that most people are in connection with is the orgasm, which is more of like a tension release orgasm. So it's where there's like quick contractions and then a release, it's like ha 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 ha, and then you're done. And actually men do this too, a lot of men masturbate before they go to bed so that they can go to sleep. I've met many of these men with this addiction actually to this kind of pleasure, and so moved away now from but this is self-love, it's self-love, to make time for yourself, and it doesn't just have to be masturbation, it can just be like, dancing with yourself, or dancing with your partner, or, taking a walk in nature, or reading a book, as you said, or sitting down and practicing the art of listening, even if that's just to yourself, like journal, or even speak out loud if you like that, or talk to, or ask your partner or someone in your life how they are, and learn to listen.
I'm getting but it's actually not doing anything else, not like doing a practice and looking at your phone. That's why I'm getting a bath. I'm not getting a bath in here for that reason. Well, this is not a masturbation thing, but like getting not that masturbation is right. Just
it's okay, Kev.
I'll talk about the bath, and then we'll get back to.
I'm going to tell everyone you're blushing now.
So we're getting a bath put in my house, and I like the idea that, well, it's not really for me, it's for my girlfriend, but I'm going to take ice baths. She wants to take hot baths, but that's how it goes, But I like the idea of, you're not going to have your phone in the bath. I hope not, anyway. And it's just something. It's time to yourself to do nothing. Look out the window, and That's really appealing. The whole masturbation topic. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure I've spoken about this before. If I haven't, I'll say it because it's an important point. Pornography messes your head up. We talked about girls on phones when they're young, and what they'll do is they'll, the whole filter thing about wanting to look the best angles and all that kind of thing, and then I'm talking about the destructive side of a phone now and social media and alienating other girls and this type of thing, kind of psychological warfare. Whereas with men, games and pornography, they are, it rewires your brain. And it's different if you're in a relationship, whatever, like you don't need that stuff. But I don't know where I'm going with this, Jen. I'm going down a dark alley here. But it's really it's not good. Yeah. I mean,
So here's what pornography generally teaches you, and it teaches adults this, and it teaches children this, because let's face it, everyone has their phones now, even kids, as like super young kids, have their phones. We have access to pornography at like a touch of a finger, a touch of a button. And pornography, what we generally are used to with pornography, it tells you that, the end game is the male ejaculation, man comes, boom, it's over. Yeah. It kind of says in a discreet way that a woman's pleasure is kind of secondary, actually. Yeah. It also as well, there's a little bird outside the window. It also says that it also teaches you as well, like what a penis should look like, how big it should be, how hard it should be. It also tells you what a vulva should look like, how pretty it should look, how small the labia, the lips of it should be. It tells you about like women should be squirting, blah 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 blah. It tells you so much stuff. That's all a load of bullshit, hey. Yeah. And sorry.
That's good.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in this day and age, it is so hard to find good sex education. People who aren't afraid to speak about sex and the reality of sex, the humanness of sex. That's messy. Yeah. That's variety. That doesn't like have to say like a man's penis has to be hard, that it's beautiful to have like it's beautiful to have like a soft lingam as well, and to understand how to interact with that, to understand the beauty in the variety of every single woman's parts, her private parts. These are hers, and to have a woman claim them as hers, that they are, and this is what I said to you, to learn that I am normal, exactly as I am. Yeah. We're very lucky now that, all of this, there's a huge movement online. Hey, this is what's good for Instagram. Yeah. Huge movement online around women's sexuality, around men's sexuality. Tantra is becoming a huge thing across the globe. Yeah. Right. People becoming very curious about it. And if it isn't already in your radar, watch out for this, because it's going to be, and really like what it's allowing women to do is talk about, this is my experience, this is what my vulva looks like. There's a really beautiful Instagram account called the Vulva Gallery, and it's a woman who draws all different types of vulvas, and it's nice just to be like, women that have pubic hair, women that don't have pubic hair, women that have huge lips, women that don't, women that have like a big clit, women that don't, and so it's like becoming normalized, actually. And so the more that this kind of stuff happens in the world, the more people allow themselves to speak openly about sex without the guilt, without the shame, the more we start to move away from just this one idea that porn gives us,
Yeah. I mean, if you want to make your woman happy, read like Jackie Collins and stuff like this. You know Jackie Collins?
No,
you know Jackie Collins? She thinks she's Joan Collins' sister. She's passed away now, but she would write these erotic novels. And I was talking to my girlfriend about this, how women like the story about he glanced at me from across the room, his hand touched my arm, and all this kind of jazz. And whereas men, it's the kind of more like the end product, the bit more, I don't know,
the act itself.
The act itself, exactly. And ultimately, if you want to keep your missus happy, you need to start thinking how she thinks. You know what I mean? Or at least understand that world.
Yeah. And it's a two-way street, hey? Because this is about the idea of desire, and how this kind of stimulates the body in the beginning, the idea of like arousal, and all of this is contextual as well, you know. And you know, when you're saying like, you know, learning to listen, this is such a huge part of it, you know. So for women, learning to understand like what arouses them, you know, what ignites their pleasures, what ignites their desires, you know. And for a lot of women, because we don't take the time, we don't know what this is. We don't know how to turn our body on. We don't know what parts of our body want to be touched. And to understand that it is so possible, even in a body that is numb, even in a body that experiences pain, to move yourself back into connection and back into pleasure. And there's a really simple thing that you can do. Hey, will I give this exercise now?
I don't have a camera though.
No, it's fine. I'll explain it. Yeah, it's like a 3-minute game, okay? And this is the most beautiful thing that you can do. Men can do it too. Okay. And it's the fully sensual, like it fully brings the body, it activates the nervous system actually. Okay, I'll tell you just one quick story, right? What happened to me. Yeah. When I started...
Don't be quick. I like your story, so go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a part of, I've been studying what's called the Wheel of Consent. Have you heard about this?
No.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Kev, we'll do stuff together. It's amazing, right? And it really changed my entire life, okay? Especially in terms of, you know, not just the pleasure that I was receiving like intimately with a partner, but also in the whole world, and also with myself. And so the Wheel of Consent is, I won't explain the whole system now, but it's a system that allows you to feel your boundary, okay? To feel your yes, to feel your no, okay? It also works very... hand in hand with the nervous system, okay? So the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, Okay, so I'll tell you what I was doing this practice. I was doing it last year I took a 30-day thing where I was doing it for 30 days, and I was doing this game. It's 3 minutes every single night, okay? And so okay, what happened afterwards is it fully sensitizes your body, okay? When I was 13, I remember I had this very beautiful, it was my first boyfriend. He was my first boyfriend. Oh my God. And it was like real puppy love, like super innocent, you know? Yeah. But I remember, you know, we would kiss, and we would kiss for hours because it was all we could do, hey? Because we were like 13. And for us, there was like no kind of thing of like, let's do more, you know? All we were doing was kissing. And it was, I remember this, like, I still feel it now in my body, this fully like sensory experience where I was like, my whole body would just tingle, you know? And like my lips would be like, you know, swollen, you know, and like my cheeks would be flushed, and it was like we couldn't stop, you know, because it was so pleasurable. And I remember as I got older, looking back on this time being like, fucking hell, I'll never get back to that space again, you know, because as we get older, we're taught, you know, about shame, we're taught about guilt, our body starts to close off, we have experiences that we don't like, maybe we've been taken advantage of, you know, maybe we have traumas, and like I'm not just talking about rape, but maybe like a traumatic birth, you know, maybe we've had lesser traumas. I won't go into all that now, but so our body learns to kind of shut down, and we become less sensory because this is what happens, okay? So I did this practice for 30 days. At the end of, in and around the end of the 30 days, okay, I kissed a man. It was the first time I kissed a man in a little while. And oh my God, Kev, I can't tell you what happened. My whole body, like, it was just like I was 13 again. I got goosebumps up my body, up my legs, up my arms, up into my spine. My lips started to pulse. Like everything in my body just became like really like voluptuous, like and very juicy. It was like my whole body was like like breathing, you know, it was like full sensory. And like this man and I, we kissed for 3 hours, like no joke. We were kissing constantly. And because this is the thing about interactions with the woman, yeah, the woman invites the man into her pleasure. And so he was invited into my pleasure, and that ignited his pleasure. And then it's like this, you know, constant swirl. So this practice is, you take an inanimate object, so anything that's around. Okay, I have my bobbin. You can do it. I was doing this at nighttime, okay? And you just start with your hand, and you just start to touch whatever this is. It could be a fork, you know, a spoon, like literally anything, yeah?
So Jenny is now touching her hand with her bobbin.
Yeah.
A bobbin is the thing you put in your hair.
This is it, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Okay. I think it's very Irish people know this.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's like you close your eyes and you're fully present with the sensation, yeah, that you're feeling. Right now, my pleasure is my own. Okay. And because this is an inanimate object, okay, there's no kind of thing of like trying to perform. You can even do it with your own hand if you don't have anything. Yeah. Because my pleasure is my own, there's no sense of performance. There's no one else that I have to like consider here. So it's fully mine. And I start to feel then like the sensation in my hand, and I stay at my hand, the very palm of my hand in the center until I start to feel even more, yeah, and you'll start to feel tingles, and maybe it'll take a while. First couple of times you could be numb here and not feel anything, and you wait for your body to give you a signal, and then it tells you where to go next, and suddenly you might find the bobbin by the side of your baby finger, okay, and then maybe moving down onto the wrist, and you don't go anywhere until you feel, and everything is slow, until you feel the body, yeah, telling you to go there, and then suddenly, ooh, yeah, you start to feel like the tickles, you know, going up your body, this sensation. And so this is a process of like calling the nerve endings to the skin.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And you keep going. I could explain this a little bit more, but I'm not sure how much time we have. But
yeah. And what's that process called?
What
did you call it?
What do you mean?
What you're doing there? What do you call this system?
Oh, I just call it the 3-minute game.
3-minute game. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and it's to activate the whole body. So, okay, so now I've practiced this for myself, okay? I'm fully able to activate my own body in 7 minutes, yeah? To have my body ready to receive pleasure, okay? Because it needs to be ready for this, you know? To make your body juicy, to make it pleasurable and fully sensory, yeah?
It's a bit like foreplay.
Definitely. This is what it is.
I've heard of that. I don't know what it is. But
yeah.
I'm joking there.
Okay, we have lots to teach you.
Mr. Lover Lover.
Mr. Lover Lover. Hey, girl.
That makes a lot of sense, though. It does.
Yeah. And this is important because this, you know, for women, it teaches women about their own pleasure, you know. And when you understand your own pleasure, you can express that to the person you're with. And this is interesting, hey, because generally we don't often know what we like and what we don't like. Yeah. And so you'll find, you know, that the guy, how do we expect our partners to know what we like if we don't know it, you know? And so you might find this, yeah, like men will say like, ooh, like tell me what you like and tell me what you want. Men like this, yeah, to be told this. And maybe you have found this response in your own sexual explorations and adventures, yeah, where women say like, ooh, no, I like what you're doing, just keep doing that, yeah? Because sometimes it's like, they don't know. Sometimes it's a fear of expressing their true desires and pleasures. And so all of this is to allow yourself, yeah, to fully feel all of this, to fully understand it, to experience it, yeah, and then to give yourself the freedom in the expression of, or in expressing it, yeah. So it's, you know, there's so much.
It makes complete sense. I think that's a great practice to develop.
Yeah.
Jen, I wish I could talk to you for longer. We've got to wrap it up. Any people want to find you, it's Hello Jenny Keane, right?
Yeah.
On the
and
gram.
there soon will be a website, Kev, but that will be on Instagram. Boom, coming up.
You promote it on Instagram. Cool.
Yeah.
What's your next event, or what would you like to let the people know about?
The next thing, when,
like, what workshop are you doing next? Or this will be out next Thursday, which is so it's 27th today, so like the 4th of July.
Well, I have a few things coming up. I'm going to be doing a really beautiful yin yoga and soundscapes with my friend Tolga. Do you know Tolga?
No.
Oh my God, he's a magic man when it comes to music and like bringing you into like boom, la la land.
Okay.
And then around my birthday, you know, I have like this thing that I do for charity for my birthday every year?
No.
Okay, so I do a thing for charity every year. This year, I'm planning an event just for women this time. Yeah.
Okay.
So all about pleasure, all about the stuff that, you know, I work with, you know, I've been studying for the last number of years, and I'm super excited about it. So yeah, have a look around for that. You know, I'll put it up on Instagram, and then Instagram will tell you when the website is up and all that stuff. So yeah.
Nice one, Jen. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
There you go. That was a long one, I know, and but Jen is such fun. I could just chat to her for ages, and you know, I was thinking I could edit some of that stuff out. I'll have to listen back to it. You know, some stuff that I said that's maybe a little bit embarrassing, a bit kind of just having a bit of a laugh. But I want to be myself. You know, I like having a laugh. Even when I'm in class, I like having a bit of a laugh. I think life is too short to take yourself seriously. Take what you do seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. This thing about being a yoga guru, and I am very serious, I know everything, and everything has to be really serious. I'm not into that. I'm just practicing yoga, and I share yoga, and if we can have a bit of a laugh along the way, great. I sound a bit like David Brent there, but yes, anyway, so check out Jenny's classes. She's fantastic. And if you want to check out my workshops or my events, you go to kevinboyleyoga.ie, and you can see that on July 27th. I've got the open day for the yoga teacher training with Yoga Hub. That's in Castle Knock. Free event at 3 p.m. It's Q&A. Just come along, meet other people, ask your questions, bring your pad and pen. And then July 6th, which is this Saturday, handstand workshop in the Elba Room in Stony Batter at 2 o'clock. That's €29, and there are 3 spaces left. 10% off for members of the Elba Room. As always, this podcast is brought to you and sponsored by Arm Apparel and Small Changes. Eco-active wear for men. I wear their gear. I think it's good that when you buy your clothes, you think about where they came from, how are they made. These guys are Blue Sign certified, so it's legitimately conscientiously, if I can say that word, sourced. So if you want to check out their gear and buy from them, which I'll get a tiny commission, which would be great, then it's go to om.com/#TYLP, and you put in their promo code Kevin, and you get 15% off your clothing. If you go to Small Changes, I don't get any commission, but you can just tell them that I said hello, and go down there in either John Condra or soon to be Glasnevin. They're organic, eco-friendly, plant-based whole foods store that do refills, juice bar, and all with a zero waste ethos, which is great, man. That's what it's all about. We only got one Earth, peeps. Let's look after it and each other, as Jerry Seinfeld would say, or Jerry Springer. I don't know, whichever one it was. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed, share with your friends on your IG stories, or you can do a review on iTunes. That really, really helps. Look after yourselves. Keep in touch. Namaste.